Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and The Score. I am Mark Grote of 670 The Score, one part of the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote show. We talk lots of Bears on that show, too, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. Dan, good to see your fresh, smiling postseason face. How are you, sir?
Yeah, it is. I wasn't even smiling yet, but I'm smiling now for those on the YouTube. I'm good. How are you? It's crossing this bridge right into the off season. I feel like every year you feel like almost, I don't even know what the word is, but you just feel a little shell shocked getting out of your routine, and so you're like trying to figure out what to do with this middle ground now that the Bears don't have practices and meetings and all that stuff. And it's always an awkward transition in my world. I don't know if it's similar for you.
Yeah, I actually just started feeling it in the last 24 hours, like a little just there's the part where your body finally tells you it's tired. That happened like a couple days after the loss to the Rams, where all of a sudden you hit a wall because you're going.
I had that Saturday.
Yep. Okay, you had that Saturday where you are going on adrenaline. Like the human body is amazing in so many different ways. But when the brain and the body are married up to give you that adrenaline that we have to have in the jobs that we do, and I would imagine a lot of our listeners in their respective careers have adrenaline jobs. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That it's a must because you just don't like the comings and the goings and the stress of live, the stress of getting interviews, the stress of, in your case, meeting deadlines, the stress of coming up with, Bears content on the daily in a very sort of hyper way. Yeah, you're going to be going on adrenaline. And then eventually when it stops and you're not using all that, your body's like, I'm going to take you. Okay, get ready. I'm going to take you. It's that ride at Great America that's at the top, and then boom, it just goes straight down to the haunted house. I think it's at Disney World, where just boom, you're coming straight down, and then you just hit that wall for a couple of days where you're like, oh, it's almost like being sick. It's like, okay, got you loud and clear. I called in tired for work one day. I'll just admit it right now. I called in the Score. I think I said I don't feel well. I don't feel 100%. But then I was pretty transparent with my teammates and my bosses. I was just tired as crap.
Spent, right? Like that's the best word for it. You just spent, and then you start mapping out. You start kind of looking further ahead, both in football terms and in life terms, than you've been able to look for the last 3 or 4 months, which is always interesting. Like, oh yeah, there's life maintenance and chores and stuff that I have to get back to at some point, right?
Yeah, the good part too, though, about this year, Dan, is I don't feel the same way that I have felt in past years, even in past winning years. Like, even though the season ended and the Bears lost in the playoffs to the Los Angeles Rams, they lost the way they lost with everything that went into it. I am officially at peace with this 2025-2026 season for the Chicago Bears. There's still tons to talk about and to derive from it. And Lord knows we will do that on this podcast because it's what we want to do and it's what people need to hear about. We get it. There's a lot to go through. But I am at peace with what happened. I am at peace with the fact that the LA Rams were the better team at Soldier Field that day and won the game. I was at peace, unlike I think a lot of Bears fans and even friends of mine, like not at peace watching the NFC title game or either of the AFC or the NFC championship games to get to the Super Bowl, especially in the NFC, because I had people saying to me, oh man, like a buddy of mine, my buddy Steve, he was like, don't you think the Bears could have beat Seattle? Now I'm even more angry about it. And I'm not because the main reason, Dan, that I am not looking at the postseason the same way as I usually do is because there was nothing about this Bears team this year that was predictable. Getting back to the season, as I said we would. There was nothing. Like, I can't sit here and tell you that the Bears would have beaten Seattle on that day, that they could have overcome some things that were not overcome in that game. No way could I do that because I know that so much of the season was just this huge wave of unpredictable things that got more predictable as the season went on. But that was definitely the way the season's identity was.
They surpassed expectations, which is part of what gives you the peace that you said that you have. I think there's a couple things on that topic that are notable. Number one, you and I had talked privately when the playoffs started about how there would be no peace in the city if the Bears season ended at the hands of the Packers, right? And so getting that win in the wild card round of the playoffs over the rival across the border was such an absolute validation and legitimizer of this season, right? It just cleared a hurdle that needed to be cleared for this organization and for the city's peace of mind. So I think there's part of it in there. For me personally, I feel like some of the feeling you have as the season ends is a gratitude for how much fun, meaningful football we had a chance to watch. Really, you go back to Black Friday and you take every single game from that point through the end of the playoff run. And you're like, man, that was just like high level football for a month and a half, and you contrast that with what the late November, all of December, early January existence usually is for us when we're really recovering. Like, oh, is the losing streak going to hit 9? Oh, that's going to be a fun reason to go to Soldier Field on Sunday, whatever it may be. And so that whole thing. And like, I know that there's been, this kind of vague comparison to the 2015 Cubs thrown around a lot in this city because of that. The one thing that I lean into with that comp, understanding that baseball and football are two completely different sports, the ability to sustain things are different, is the fact that the 2015 Cubs, I always said in the moment, in real time, remember when they went and played that one game playoff in Pittsburgh?
Oh, that's my favorite moment of almost the whole run.
And so like that night was sort of unlocking the door to this world where you could gain playoff experience that would help you down the road. We all know what they did against the Cardinals in that really fun series back in 2015, and then obviously get swept by the Mets. But you felt like that team gained incredibly valuable experience on the stage, right? That was going to prepare them and help them the following year. Similarly, I think that what we just talked about with this Bears team, with a number of big moments, big games, late game drama situations that they had to face, it prepares them for what's ahead of them. And we all know what's ahead of them is going to be daunting. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be really, really hard to repeat. But you are very, appreciative of the experiences that they gained through that stretch that should be building blocks for next year.
Well, let me pick it up right there with what you're talking about, because Ben Johnson and this got a message across to his team and has gotten a message across to the media. And we are getting that message across to the people. And that is how vastly different every single year is for a football franchise. And Ben Johnson has been warning about that since the post game of the LA Rams. This ain't ever coming back. And then the players were lamenting the same things in the locker room. Cole Kmet, all those veterans were like, don't give us this momentum stuff. This stuff doesn't carry over. Now, you mentioned it, Dan. I understand. You gave the disclaimer that baseball and football are different. So I'm taking that all into account. And you're right. It does have that same feeling. What I'm getting to, though, is instead of lamenting that, let's just look for a second about what it is that actually will carry over to next season, because Ben Johnson made it sound like, and I understand what he was doing, that ain't nothing coming back here. There is stuff that will be back, and one of them is the man making those statements. You're back, coach. We'll pump your ego for you.
Sure.
You're a really good head coach. Your quarterback, Caleb, you have a quarterback that needs refining still, and that's what everybody in the building told us in the final press conference. Still needs work, but you have a quarterback. You have a tight end. You have a young wide receiver. There is a lot coming back. The defense, it's hard to sit here and name all the great parts of the defense right now, but there are encouraging things. And Kevin Byard and what Nashawn Wright did this year, Montez Sweat having double-digit sacks, and that he's going to be back, and guys will be returning like Dio Dosunmu. Wait, no, Dio Dangbo.
Dio Dangbo.
I was just at the Bulls game last night.
Cross-pollinating sports, which we're doing here on this episode.
I did do that, and it's so funny because I was really enjoying watching Io DeSumo play the Lakers at the United Center the other night. But you get my point, Dan. There is
Io DeSumo's similar sack total to Dio Dangbo. I'm sorry, that was a low blow, but you set it up.
What did he have? Did he end up with? I remember the first couple games.
1.5. I don't even know. I couldn't even recite it to you off the top of my head. Not enough. He
made plays early, but the Bears actually do have a lot coming back next year, Dan. And so I'm trying to support your point or the analogy that you made that we've been hearing out there in the ether, comping the 2015 Cubs. Like they're on the verge, they're on the cusp, and there's nothing cool. There's no cooler feeling for a sports fan, and quite frankly, for media members, because we're on the front line to feel that about the team that you're covering or rooting for.
There's no question. And look, like, we will document and lean into the things that the Bears established in 2025 that will carry into 2026 for the next 7 months, right? Until they're back in training camp and really starting the path up the next season's mountain. What Ben did so perfectly last week, in my opinion, was just set a tone. And it was a message to every player and every coach in that building that if you're here for a victory lap or a bunch of pats on the back, Dad's in the front seat going, knock it off, right? like that's the message from Ben Johnson's chair right now. Knock it off. We got work to do. And so they do have work to do, because you realize how difficult it is to repeat and sustain success in this league. That said, with some of the things that you mentioned, one of the things that I think is incredibly important to the future is the continuity that they are going to have offensively. You're sending 2 offensive line acquisitions to the Pro Bowl games this weekend, and Drew Dahlman and Joe Tooney. You're bringing 4 starters back there. You're bringing back 6 other starters. You've got your play caller and your quarterback married up for another year. We'll get into what may happen at the offensive coordinator position here in a minute, but there is a level of continuity for that offense, particularly when the 2 most important people in the building right now are Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. That should be a springboard to what they want to accomplish next season. And so you feel great about the establishment of that and the ability of the Bears to recognize that and use that as an advantage.
No doubt about it. And we're going to talk more about some specific players and maybe even a little bit more about Ben Johnson in a few minutes here on Take the North. We're going to do a segment called I've Been Thinking, because our guy Dan Wiederer wrote an excellent article in The Athletic. We'll allow you to go look at that. Go look at it now, but come back or look at it later. You should always read Dan's stuff in The Athletic. If you want to be informed, you best read The Athletic and what Dan Wiederer has to say. But he's been thinking about some things, as he wrote in that article. He will bring that to you. I'll tell you what I've been thinking about as far as the Bears are concerned. And I have a great quarterback question for Dan and Studs too at the end of this podcast, which will be a preview for what's coming up on the score on Rahimi, Harrison, Grote on what would be Wednesday. So
I love a good pop quiz. I love a good pop quiz.
Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be a doozy. It's the blockbuster question. I'm just going to say it. It's the blockbuster question of the year. It's a blockbuster question. And I think I'm going to blow you guys away. You offensive coordinator and coaching and all of that kind of stuff. The word is that Declan Doyle, the Chicago Bears offensive coordinator, who does not call plays for the Chicago Bears, interviewed in Philadelphia. Our good friend and one of the founding fathers of the Take the North podcast had a report on the score and has texted me it as well, saying that Declan Doyle interviewed well with Philadelphia, told the job was his if he wanted it. They offered him the job. Another way to say it, he decided that he did not want it. That is the word according to Haugh and his sources, what they have cited. And to go on, that he is expected to, that is Declan Doyle, interview in Baltimore. It's pretty amazing, Dan, that we have gotten to the point for the Bears where a first-time offensive coordinator can turn down promotions.
Yeah, man. I look, like, we used to document this all the time about the number of offensive play callers that have left Hallis Hall not on the up escalator, right? Like, they always go through a trapdoor. The only one that I can recall in my entire existence leaving on the up escalator was Adam Gase, who left for head coaching opportunities and ultimately didn't do so well in 2 different stops as a head coach. But other than that, it's usually complete disaster on the offensive side of the ball, and then guys just have to pick up the pieces and go. Yeah, that defensively, obviously Fangio, but I'm talking strictly offense in the way that it just never happens that an offensive play caller leaves in that way. On the topic of Declan Doyle, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him and his discussions in Baltimore with obviously a new head coach there and a new start happening with the Ravens and Jesse Minter. I think you sat in that room enough with Declan this year to realize how bright his future is, how just intelligent and eloquent. And now you pair that up with a guy that's had experience around Sean Payton and Ben Johnson, and you're like, man, like, this guy's got some answers to the test. Living those experiences with those two offensive masterminds, it helps you see the game a little bit more clearly, a little bit differently, a little bit sharper in ways that should help you as a coach. And so it's going to be really fascinating, as young as he is, to see what career trajectory he takes. And again, like when you are that young, you do have the luxury of being selective, which I like the fact that as you mentioned, he is being selective. But no thanks to Philly. I think we all agreed that by the end of this season, the vibes with the Eagles were not real strong. And so I guess you decide to kind of, roll the dice in a different pit.
Yeah. Well,
and see how they come up.
Our guy, Adam Studzinski, our producer, writes in the chat, maybe he thinks that Sirianni is getting fired next year. And
that's why I bring up the vibes, right? Who knows? And then where are you?
Right, because it felt like at times Sirianni's job. Well, he did what he had to do with the offensive coordinator this year, but it felt like he's next at Heat. It's pretty amazing because Philadelphia just won a Super Bowl, and you could make the case that in Philly there was talk about his job security, which is absolutely crazy. Declan Doyle is 30 years old, and he it's interesting. Like, I'm just thinking about him as a candidate, because I just feel like he's just so fresh and so new at being out front, being the out front guy. And our conversations with him, and I mean this, what I'm about to say usually is not necessarily a great connotation. He's robotic, as in he answers every question with the same expression. The content is always good. I don't want to say somehow his content might be the best of all the coordinators in terms of just being truthful about what he's seen. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to say it. Yeah. And that includes some of the assistants that we talked to out in the hallway out at Haugh, who for them, it's even more relaxed environment. They're not up at a lectern staring at 30 media people. But he does it with the same expression. He looks the same every day. Like, he's got that part down, like being the same guy every day. And then the content of the answers that he gives us is usually just amazing. So I don't know, man, like he could be the next whiz kid. I don't want to put too much on his plate, but if he's already getting interest from two teams, and I get it, this is the way the NFL world works. If you're good, your coaching staff's going to be rated, but it's very interesting with him in particular.
A little more insight just on, because when you are the offensive coordinator for a play calling head coach, you have sort of a different set of responsibilities. And back when Ben was hired, it was essentially defined as somebody that could set the table every week. The head coach is pulled in a lot of different directions on the day after games. He's got to deal with ownership. He's got to deal with the media. He's got to deal with disgruntled players. He's got to deal with the trainers and the doctors figuring out injuries. And so you need somebody that can be ahead of the game with the homework for the next week. And that's why a guy like Declan Doyle will leave a game on, say it's a Sunday night game, and be back at Haugh doing the homework, so that when Ben has a chance to surface and get back into the most important parts of his role, he's set up for success. And so you have to have somebody that is a willing servant, I guess is an easy way to put it. Very hardworking, unrelenting work ethic. And I think he checked a lot of those boxes. You heard some of the praise late in the year from Ben Johnson for the way Declan Doyle helped this staff elevate themselves. And I thought from top to bottom, this staff, and Ben said it himself, was an A+ staff that got the most out of this team. And maybe there's going to be some new faces and some new voices that come into the building because of the attrition. Mm-hmm. But man, they really want to try to maintain some of that special sauce they had going this past season, because as we witnessed up close and personal, it really did make a difference in the way the team performed.
Try to keep as many of those guys as you can. If not, that's okay. You're starting your tree, and that's a good thing. And what really good head coaches all have the same. Talk about your classics like Belichick, the guy Sean McVay, who is becoming that way. They always manage to rehire good assistants because they've lost them all through the years, especially like Bill Belichick was the king of that, right? Every single offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator gone, went on to their own jobs, and he overcame it.
You also mentioned just that, this is the plight of a good team. And like Detroit experienced that this year, right? Like Dan Campbell's staff got raided. He lost both coordinators after last season. They lost a whole bunch of assistant coaches, and they had to rebuild it. And it wasn't always smooth, which is why they are making some more changes this year, because they didn't quite land on the right guys the first time around when you're going for replacements. Drew Petzing who, by the way, stood up in Ben Johnson's wedding, will be the new offensive coordinator in Detroit in a position that Ben once held. But that's it, right? Like, so it does become challenging in certain circumstances, even when you've got it humming and flowing, to find the right fits and to recreate chemistry. And I think that's part of some of what Ben has voiced in recent weeks, is that like the 2025 Bears book is closed, and like we've got to start a whole new book at page 1 with our pen, with our typewriter, whatever you use to write nowadays. And we got to fill this book with as many happy stories as 2025 had.
Let me tell you, I'm the greatest hybrid ever of and you might be too, Dan, you might be too, of writing things down and typing things out, because I got a million things written down always on a piece of paper in front of me, just so I never lose that base of info that I need to reference. It's like having the alphabet in front of you.
Yes.
But yeah, man, I mean, in my notes in my phone, you'll find stuff on, in a document, you'll find stuff. So I'm a hybrid, Dan. I don't know about you.
Maybe one day this off season, I'll take this little webcam off of our setup here and walk you around my office, and you can see all the gas station receipts and kids' homework and stuff that I've got. I scribble stuff. Oh, I got to remember to say that. Oh, I got to write. It is an absolute mess. I've got to find a better way to organize my thoughts than how I do it. But I do need to put pen to paper. It doesn't work in my brain unless it first comes out of this hand onto a piece of paper, and then I can put it in the computer however I see fit.
I love old school recording. It's beautiful, and I think most of us still do. Even the youngins, you still got to write. They still got to write stuff down. Did you ever see the movie Spotlight about the Boston Globe?
Oh yeah.
And just like, it's a very serious topic, obviously, with Catholic priests, and that's not what I want to get into. But just the journalism part of that, and how they would give me that knack book to write something down, or All the President's Men too, another great journalism movie where you just find anything you can to scribble stuff down on.
Fun fact about Spotlight: my brother is a former graphic designer at the Boston Globe and actually worked on part of several projects, not the specific one that movie's about, but worked on several Spotlight projects for the Boston Globe. So there's a little fun nugget attached to what you're talking about there. He's a teacher now.
That's very cool. Okay. I got it. Like so many. He got out of the business.
Yeah.
Okay, movie hour is over. Let's talk about another newsmaker for the Chicago Bears, and that is Ian Cunningham, the now, I'd say, longtime assistant general manager to his boss, Ryan Poles. Ian Cunningham is in the mix for the Atlanta job, where Matt Ryan is running the show. Dan, I feel like, and I guess good for him, there's been this like sort of gentle and loving push for Ian Cunningham since he walked in the door at Halas Hall, which makes sense. The assistant GM is always going to want his own show, but I feel like every year we have gone, including last year, where he thought he had a beat on a gig and then kind of had to return. So for Ian Cunningham's sake, I hope this is the one for him.
Yeah, it's easier to keep people's attention when you're coming off a division championship year, as opposed to having to explain away why your team lost 10 in a row and had to fire the coach in season, right? Like, so there's a different dynamic that follows the Bears right now. And Ian Cunningham will get a second interview. I can't pronounce the name quite correctly. The Texans assistant general manager, is it James Lippert?
It's Adewale Ogunleye.
James Lippert is the other finalist for that gig. Okay. Matt Ryan, of course, is Ryan Poles' college buddy. So there's a connection there. They can exchange notes and try to figure out what makes sense. What's interesting here for Bears fans is if Ian Cunningham left for that job, because Matt Ryan is considered the chief football decision maker in the Falcons organization, the Bears would not get the 2 third-round compensatory picks that usually come with a minority candidate being elevated in the level of coaching or front office to those key jobs. And so that would not be a win for the Bears. They would just lose Ian. They'd have to reshuffle their staff, figure out what they want to do there, but they wouldn't get anything in return for that. So that's one thing that I think would probably bum some Bears fans out, that they wouldn't get the fruits of having Ian have been here since 2022.
Yeah, that's too bad. But I do, I hope for his sake, from my interactions have been nothing but positive with Ian Cunningham seems like he does a good job. Seems like he's been an honest voice in the ear of Ryan Poles and maybe now even Ben Johnson. So we shall see. We shall see what happens with him. Is there any other coaching stuff? I feel like it's such a flurry of things around the NFL or even on the Bears that interest you right now, or have we pretty much covered what we need to cover right now?
Al Harris, right? Like we're trying to figure out if Al Harris might have a place in Pittsburgh with Mike McCarthy and it'd be very interesting to see if he gets an opportunity there to reunite. But beyond that, it's kind of like you just kind of want to hear the music stop on this entire game of musical chairs around the league and then be able to survey where everybody landed, where they didn't land, who's where, who do the Bears have left. You're just kind of waiting. And for once, it feels like the Bears are interested spectators in all this movement as opposed to needing to kind of freak out and go fill a bunch of chairs because they had to fire everyone.
It really is like it's like back to the beginning of the show. It's like full circle, Dan. It is. I don't feel the same. I enjoyed watching the football games. I wasn't lamenting. I wasn't sitting there thinking. I wanted to be. It was a blast, and I was wearing out Chris Emma's arm during the Rams game. I think it was the first time I could ever remember like actually sitting there kind of rooting, not out loud, not in a weird, but
punching
just
him
because I wanted I was giving him the punch. That was the only way I could express myself. I was like, I just really giving it to him good in the press box because I genuinely, and I've not always felt this way in my career. I didn't want the party to stop. I didn't want the adrenaline release. I didn't want to have my life back yet. I didn't want to be able to do the things I needed to do to make my life better. I was like, let's keep this party going. So I had that angst, but at the same time, I am simultaneously at peace with what the season was for the Bears.
It's been really fun over the last few weeks to hear from people that were at any of the 3 primetime home games down the stretch, the 2 Packers games and the Rams game, and like for people to be in those environments and to describe the electricity that we kind of watched through the glass up in the press box. It's really cool, because it reawakened in Chicago what everybody knew was in there, right? It's this passion for the Bears, this excitement, this absolutely contagious fervor that comes with when the Bears are good. And so like you get some of those stories now from friends, family members, other people that are in your orbit, and you're like, yeah, no, it was everything that it looked like it was, and so it's cool. It's cool for Chicago to be back in that place. Now, again, the challenge is staying in that place. And that's been a real challenge for this organization for 35 years.
Dan Wiederer today in The Athletic. Tuesday it came out, but it's there forever for you in The Athletic. He's been thinking about some things. He went through 3 significant people on the Chicago Bears, coach and or player, that he's been thinking about. Dan, can you kind of lead us through what you were thinking with this piece and what you want to say about the individuals that are the centerpieces of it?
This is that point here where we're sort of slowly crossing the bridge from the season into the offseason. And so it was just kind of a way to, get to some things that kind of got lost in the shuffle as the season came to a close. And so 3 things that I was thinking about. The first thing I was thinking about was Colston Loveland and the way he finished this season. Obviously, he gets knocked out of the playoff loss late in regulation with the concussion and isn't available in overtime. But when you watch the growth that he made from the start of training camp to the end of the season, and you realize how much of a chess piece he can become for the Bears. And again, when I talk about Colston Loveland's upside, a lot of it has to do with Colston Loveland, but there's also a lot of it that has to do with both Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. And so when you've got a guy that's this talented, this driven, and then you give him this premier quarterback talent and an absolute genius as an offensive play caller, and you're like, oh boy, like we sit here today on January 27th, 2026. And I think you and I are in agreement that like the sky is the limit right now for where Colston Loveland can go.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like, and that's another beautiful thing to see as a reporter and as a fan, to see a guy to see him make that star turn when Colston Loveland makes the 53 yard catch at Cincinnati in the final seconds on the final. It's a big moment for Caleb. It's a huge moment for Colston Loveland because, as you know, and I admit, sometimes I don't have the proper patience early in a season, and you'd think I'd have that perspective by now. But I was worried about the Colston Loveland early in the season because he was open and Caleb wasn't getting it to him. There just didn't seem to be a lot of chemistry, but they ended up after that big touchdown. I think that was the one that was symbolic of the season. Then to see it carry on, you're like, oh man, wow, we are seeing a star in the making.
You always hear me talk about staircase, escalator, elevator. It feels like Colston Loveland's not that far away from the elevator for his NFL career. And we'll see what happens next season, but it really does feel like, that's the point where you just press the button on how high you want to go and then you go there, and so we'll see kind of what they're able to unlock as they get him back for year 2. A couple of the other things I've been thinking about, Grote. Number one is Cairo Santos. I'm going to tease our audience to my piece at The Athletic in the interest of time so they can read about Cairo Santos and dirty kicks and all that. But I also wanted to get back to Ben Johnson and the concept of presence. And one of the things that I had in my piece at The Athletic today was just revolving around how important presence is in every NFL head coaching job, particularly here in a city that sort of needs some stage presence and some charisma. And that became very clear to me when the Bears opened this job up and they started casting lines around the league last year. And the way I started my Ben Johnson thought in The Athletic today was rehashing something that a AFC executive had told me before the Bears even started on their search that ended with Ben Johnson, and talked about the need for someone in that job to have presence. And his word was someone who has balls. You can't be away on that stage, which was a great way to put it. And I'll read you one other thing here, just because I think that it is really imperative to revisit why Ben had the results he had here. This is the executive talking here. He said, beyond anything else, you need someone who can set a tone, establish that accountability, create a culture. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. There are just certain guys who have the unique ability to push guys to the limit, and yet they want to run through a wall for him. There are certain guys whose secret sauce is in front of the team. After practice, after devastating losses, it's just that genuine ability to turn the worst situation you can ever think of into a mindset among the players of, man, we're going to fight for this guy. And it was really fascinating to read those in retrospect, because that was speaking on a generic candidate on who the Bears should be seeking to fill the job. And then when you see who they did hire and a guy that fit all those criteria and then led them to a division championship in season 1, you're like, man, that's some pretty prescient stuff there.
That's amazing, man. I mean, just the fact that he does his best work in front of the team. When was the last time we could say that about a Bears coach with that kind of sort of vigor? And it is Ditka. I mean, I know that's like people are, Grote's going to go. Well, it is like Nagy had a little juice, but I don't think he was getting through to those guys, as it turns out.
Yeah, Lovey had it in a different form for a while, right? But it wasn't the type of charisma and character that ignites the city, right? And that's what this is, and that's why I think it was so much fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Ben Johnson for sure. What about that kicker? You've been loving that Cairo this year, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm going to make people go read about that. But I really do think when you go back and revisit Cairo's end of the season and the fact that they started playing outdoor games for the remainder of the year in mid-November, and that Cairo was basically perfect, missed one kick down the stretch in all those outdoor games, and then became a little bit of an expert with these new dirty kicks and said that he wants to go into his offseason experimenting a little more with that, because when you can start to create these touchbacks back at the 20 like he did down the stretch of the season, it's a real advantage. It's a field position switch. It's a huge lift to a football team. And you really appreciate the craftsman that is Cairo Santos. And that's why I felt like I needed to get that out there before we got too deep into the offseason.
Yes, it's easy to overlook special teams and what Cairo Santos has obviously done for this team, overcoming some AC moments, if you will, this year as well. To at the end of the year, me and you and I think most looking at him and saying, yeah, he's the guy. He's still the kicker for the Chicago Bears. There's no doubt about it. Dan, I don't know if there's anything else that you've been thinking about. The only thing that I've been thinking about is when I hear I think of that song by the White Stripes called "I've Been Thinking About the Doorbell." Do you remember that song? I've been thinking about the doorbell.
Yep.
Yeah. And
When
then
you're gonna ring
think,
it? When you're gonna ring it?
You're such my guy. You really are. Like I could just bring that up, and you're right. You're right there for me. And I was thinking about that and where because they're getting older, man. You know, Jack White, he's probably 50s. Like, and we don't really talk too much like where, because the White Stripes are good. I'm not going to throw the old, are the White Stripes good? They're good. I'm just trying to figure out where they are in the pecking order of all-time greats at this point, because they have withstood the test of time, my friend.
You've been thinking on a deeper level there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would put them on the middle tier. Can I go middle tier?
You can go middle tier. That's fine.
Are you going to go one
I
tier
go a little
up?
higher. I go a little higher. Yeah, and Jack White is exactly 50 years old per Adam Studzinski. I just think there's just not a lot of bands that just rock anymore with just bass, guitar, drums, and vocals. And they just continually now for decades have just rocked.
And I mean, if we're going to talk sports and White Stripes, Seven Nation Army that's it. And that became the anthem. I got to do my math here. The 2023 10-year-old Royals that won the House League championship here in Glenview adopted that as the anthem. I ended up putting together a slideshow after the championship triumph to that song. And so it all marries together. You get Seven Nation Army rolling, and you can get a group of boys pretty fired up pretty quick.
Yep, that no doubt about it. It is, and that actually, I'm like sort of torn on that, because it's just so commercial that it's so in every stadium that you lose track of that song, and I don't know how good that actual song is now, because I know it's just a stadium song. So I've lost track if that song is even a good song or not. That's hurtful.
I will send you the 10U Royals commemorative championship video on YouTube, and you'll listen to it, and it'll reignite your love for Seven Nation Army. Okay,
good. All right, last thing I have for you guys on the podcast is on the score on Wednesday. Our guy, Marshall Harris of the Rahimi, Harris and Grote show, said that he would like to do a topic and make the case that Caleb Williams is the greatest Chicago Bears quarterback of all time. Dan, just off the top of your head, could you make the case that Caleb Williams is the best Chicago Bears quarterback of all time?
Nope. And I would push back on this strongly. And my pushback would be, not yet. Don't do this again, Chicago. Don't start hanging the mission accomplished banners too early. You can't do it. And I am a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried about this offseason for the psyche of a city that just can't control itself sometimes. And I'm going to get a lot of pushback on this and a lot of blowback for saying this, but this is what Ben Johnson is talking about. This is what he's trying to get through to Caleb Williams when he talks about there is no building off this. That's over. There was some really special things here. We can get very easily intoxicated by the highest of the highs and the flashes that Caleb showed. But my God, man, you got to have more than one playoff victory before we start talking about all-time best, right? You got to have the ability to look. I get it. He's the single season leader in passing yards, right? He broke that record this year. It's a record that stood the test of time for too long.
Right.
But man, you brought that up and it was a pop quiz. I wasn't ready for this. And you're feeling the raw general reaction to me of being don't do this. Don't go there so fast, Chicago. Just take your time.
You might hear this exact rant on the score on Wednesday. I don't
want it to be misconstrued. I don't want it to be misconstrued.
Dan, it's just with you.
Yeah, keep your feet in cement for a little while.
Right. And I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do this offseason? I am going to carry around the quotes from Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles. I'm going to have them maybe written down on my scratch paper.
That's a square one.
Yeah. Not even just back to square one. Not even that. What they're specifically saying about Caleb Williams, that, man, some of the stuff he's doing is unbelievable. Yeah, you're damn right we got a quarterback. Oh, but there's things we still got to work on. Both Ryan Poles, and obviously I'm paraphrasing, both Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson have said that. I will get the exact quotes because they're both good and they both kind of nail it.
We got to pop in. Studs is popping in.
Superstar.
Studs has been thinking too. Studs has been thinking.
Wait a minute. I didn't even think about how personally Adam Studzinski was taking what you were just saying now, Dan, because Adam proclaimed him to be an effing superstar, didn't you, Adam?
No, I called him a fucking star. I didn't call him a superstar yet. No, I actually am relative. No, I'm actually like I'm fairly in line with you guys on this. I think you could make the argument if you really wanted to, because it's such a low bar. I mean, look, the greatest Bears quarterback ever, depending on how you make the argument, is one of three guys. It's McMahon, Cutler, or Sid Luckman, who played in the 40s, right? So, like, it's such a low bar. If you're going by pure raw talent, it's Caleb, right? If you're going by just greatness, what is greatness? Winning? That's probably McMahon, right? So, like, it's not something we need to be declaring yet. It's like, let's see a little more. I personally, like, have never seen a Bears quarterback play like this in my entire life.
No.
But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's the greatest yet. Maybe next year. We'll see what happens, you know? But it's a thinker, though. That's a great offseason topic right there.
It is, and there's got to be parameters. You're right, because like you can't like the great. If you're right, if it's winning, it's Jim McMahon and what he did. And by the way, Jim McMahon was a pretty damn good quarterback. Just to go along with that fact, it wasn't just winning. The problem with Jim McMahon is the man never played, not once, not one season did he play a full, what was then a 16-game season. That was the problem for Jim McMahon. So we don't know how good he would have been. Jay Cutler, certainly in terms of talent, like if we're talking about that part of it, definitely one of the Bears' most talented quarterbacks. Like, and I'm talking specifically about arm talent. Did he do the most with it? No. There's no way. And we talked about Eric Kramer having that one terrific season with Jeff Graham and Curtis Conway and all those guys. Then we're back to Luckman. So there's got to be some serious parameters set. So I'll be very interested to hear how Marshall wants to go about that, because he's smart. He knows that. But I think Studs also nailed it, that because the field is so weak, comically weak, historically weak with these Bears quarterbacks, it's an equation that you can get to.
You know what I'm guarding against here, and I know the world knows what I'm guarding against here. It's just the premature declaration. So, like, good Lord, and I'm not comparing Caleb Williams to Justin Fields, because from day one I said Caleb Williams would be a monumental upgrade over Justin Fields, and it's proven to be true. But there were lessons to be learned in prematurely checking the box and saying, oh yeah, he's got it all. He'll be fine. All the things that he's deficient in, he'll figure those out eventually, because sometimes they don't figure it out. And so anyway, this is me turning around to the back seat and yelling, knock it off, Marshall.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, as we're talking about Wednesday, Dan Wiederer will be part of the Scores afternoon show. He'll be filling in for Lawrence Holmes, so you will be locked in with Matt Spiegel. So you will have an opportunity to speak to Sir Marshall Harris about this as well, or even me. Maybe he'll convince me. Maybe I'll be saying he's the greatest quarterback of all time by the end of the show. I don't know. I leave everything open. But no, Dan, I mainly agree with you. We're all a little drunk off of what we saw in 5 or 6 games, and that part is legit, man. But yeah, you gotta keep this going. There's one more level before Jedi.
Yeah, there's a consistency factor. I will say this, of all the things that I loved about Caleb Williams in season 2 for him, his durability, his ability, as you just mentioned with Jim McMahon, the opposite, the ability to play every single game of his NFL career through 2 seasons, despite some of the physical challenges he's been up against, is really, really impressive. And it's a character trait, right? Like, that is a massive strength that gives you a chance to unlock new worlds. And so knock on wood that stays a consistent part of the Caleb Williams scouting report.
No doubt. Let's go on. Let's get out of here. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic, check his stuff out right there, athletic.com. For our executive producer, Adam Studzinski, I am the Scores, Mark Grote, saying thank you so much for listening and watching the Take the North podcast.
Knock it off! Great talk to you out there.